I've seen it on Twitter. Not sure if you've seen as much of the talk, but it seems as if people are ready to kind of dismiss Cade and move on to JJ. I listen. We got to talk about
all
it
the time, though. Look, that's
just,
it's not just a Michigan fan base. It's any fan base that has not had an established quarterback in a long time. We do this all the time. It went from going back even before Harbaugh. It went from Devin Gardner to Shane Morris, right? Oh, get Sugar Shane in there. And then it went from, Jake Rudock was like the 1 year, which it was like no controversy. It's like, oh, this guy, yeah, he's doing pretty good, right? Other than that, then went to, okay, Jake Rudock goes to NFL. Wilton Speight is the starter. He has actually a solid season in 2016. Then the following year, he breaks his collarbone or something like that. No, I think he starts off slow. And then all of a sudden, it's like, then it's John. People are clamoring for John O'Corn. And then it continues to go from there. John O'Corn, then we get Shea Patterson, right? And then no, maybe it wasn't O'Corn, maybe it was Peters actually, right? And then people wanted to see Brandon Peters, and then we get Shea Patterson, right? And it goes from there. Then there's Dylan McCaffrey, and it's always Joe Milton. Thank you. It's just always a new thing because we just haven't had an established guy in a long time, and and part of it is that Cade, the coaching staff hasn't helped Cade convince the fan base that he is somebody that can win them a game. It kind of works against them because and then you also have the hype that JJ comes in with, and then JJ throws that throw. It's like, oh man, that's exciting, So it's just.
But is that so? It's right. So let's talk about last week, right? So Cade had 11 pass attempts. He played majority of the game, 3 quarters. Let's call it. I'm pretty sure he finished the third quarter. Maybe I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Let's say, for sake of discussion, let's say he finished the third quarter, right? Mm-hmm. So in 3 quarters of action, Cade got 11 throws. JJ in like 2 or 3 drives got, I think, 5 or 6 throws. So it to me, like, I don't love that we're not giving. If we get down to it, I think we can agree. JJ is a more athletic guy than Cade is, right. But I also look at a situation that's similar to a Mac Jones and Bryce Young, to where Mac was given an opportunity to have the starting job, and Alabama found out what they had with him. And I get it. Like, yes, everything is not exactly the same, but there's some similarities there. And to me, it seems as if Cade is getting the short end of the stick, essentially. Like, that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, and then also it's like, look, if you don't, here's my problem with the whole Cade and the play calling and stuff like that. If you're doing play calling like this because you don't trust Cade, then he shouldn't be starting. He shouldn't be starting. That's just it. And I'm sorry to say,
is that more on the Michigan staff, or is that more on Cade? You know what I mean? Like, because that would be my thing. Like, if I don't trust how many kids you
how many kids you had to bring into your program in which they just don't look, I don't want to say competent. Like, they just don't look prepared. That's like I think that's like the main thing I've seen from Michigan quarterbacks, especially on the Harbaugh, outside of Jake Rudock and the 1 year Wilton Speight. It's like they just don't seem prepared. They don't seem prepared. And it's don't have the confidence. And we talk about it with CJ. The inability, like CJ Stroud being a true freshman or a redshirt freshman for Ohio State, a new kid, doesn't have a lot of experience. But what Ryan Day would do for them did many times last week and this week as well was give him passing plays that are simple to complete, slants, bubble screens that actually work, curling routes, plays that CJ can make one snap the ball, one look, other read, get the ball out, right? Getting the quarterback in rhythm, and those are things in which they just haven't helped Cade do. And if he can't do that, then he shouldn't start. And it's getting to the point where it's just it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Like I'll ask you people this. Think about this. Think about Brandon Peters. Think about Dylan McCaffrey. Think about Joe Milton. Think about all these young quarterbacks that we've seen finally get in the center for Michigan, and the lack of preparedness that they showed, the lack of being comfortable that they would show. You know what I'm saying? Like it's always the same. It doesn't matter who's under that helmet. It just doesn't seem right. And I don't know what it is. At some point, yeah, Des, you're right. If it's a different kid, but the results are pretty much the same, it has to be the staff. It has to be.
I don't know. The all I know is, to me, I'd look at, even if you look at last year, like, and I get COVID was not a normal year for anybody, but I look at a guy like Joe Milton who, in that Minnesota game had a lot of success, but after that had essentially no success. And specifically the Rutgers game where you brought Cade in and he played well, rallied the team, and you were able to beat Rutgers after being down. Like that, to me, he showed me something there to where it was just like, no, this is enough to where I've got something to work with. But that guy, and then this guy that I'm seeing against Western in Washington, I'm sorry, that's not the same guy. And also too, I don't think you're calling plays the same way. And it just, and I just don't, I don't know. I don't understand it, but I maybe it's not meant for me to understand.
It's just, how many years we have to continue to have like this lack of just confidence in the quarterback position, and it just doesn't matter who the kid is, what name's the back of that jersey. It's just always a controversy, and that's a problem. You're going to have years. Look, don't get me wrong. You're going to have years in which you have down quarterback play. Every program deals with it. I saw Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State. Other than that, we all deal with it. The problem is when it's consistent and it's different kids every time, it's only one person to look at. That's the head coach. There's something wrong. And I don't know, man. It's getting to the point where, and I know some people, talking about Joe Milton, and I think someone said like, oh, well, look what happened to those guys. They went to the smaller schools. It's like, I actually think that this may be unfair to say that this coaching staff ruins kids, because it's not like Michigan's the only school that recruits these kids. Joe Milton, Dylan McCaffrey, all these kids are highly recruited out of high school. You go to their recruiting page, all these colleges around the country, Bama, USC, all these big name programs want these kids too, right? So what happens? How come they're highly talented coming out of high school, but they get here, and if they transfer and they leave, for some reason they just fall off a cliff? What happens? Like, it's tough to talk about, tough to figure out. Excuse me.